Welcome back, everybody, to HLTV Confirmed. This is episode 20. You're all a bunch of trifling ass hoes, and I have Striker and Prof here. A trifling ass hoe. That's like it's like the way that I speak to my girlfriend. I thought it would be a good way to open the show. You know, it's a loving kind of vibe. So, Striker, how you doing? Is it warm where you are?
It's pretty warm. It's like 29 degrees or something like that. Okay. Pretty warm.
It's hot as fuck over here.
I had to change before we started just because like I was sweaty as hell. So yeah, that's
it's literally
how it is.
One day it's rainy as fuck. Next day peak summer, 32 degrees.
Yeah, exact same thing.
Fuck everything. So AC is there though, living AC life, and it's good.
Yeah, I swam in my pool today, so it all seems worth it at this point. It all seems fucking worth it. Anyway. We have some stuff to talk about. It's actually not a huge list of things for this week's episode, but there's obviously some big things that have happened just over the weekend with the ECS going on down. But we'll kick it off as usual with the breaking news. Now, I don't know, this one here it's not close to my heart, but maybe it's closer to yours. Prof, do you want to talk about this whole Valiant's crazy situation and give everyone the understanding of what the hell is going on?
I don't think...
I don't think that's... I don't know what to say. I mean...
Explain what just happened.
Yeah, people that it's not even like the rebranding, the new logo and the name. I think the worst thing is if you go into the news and read the statement about like the whole rebranding, why is it happening, and the thinking behind it. That's the worst thing about everything. I'll just get the closing words. We have a plucky underdog spirit, a wicked sense of humor, and we're not afraid to go against anyone. And for that reason, it's time to go hard. It's time to go crazy. That's...
People pay for that kind of marketing, so I can understand how they've managed to get there. Is it literally just a change of name? Like, is there anything else that comes with this?
I'm not... I think there is. I think it is more than just a name change, because it's on an organizational side. The whole Valiance project is an off project of a mobile developer / mobile esports company. So the Valiance & Co. was the esports team, the CSGO team. And I think they sold that, the Valiance thing was sold to another company. So they're kind of trying to find a new base and move away from that brand, I think. I think that's behind it. But going for this brand, I think it's kind of funny.
I think the main part that you should have read instead of the CEO's short statement should have been like this, the ending of the second paragraph, which says the company's name wasn't reflecting its personality, and for that reason change needed to happen. So basically they just went cuckoo, and so they had to change the name as well. That's how I'm feeling about this.
I don't know.
Just quickly, we're going to come back, everybody. We're just restarting the stream. We're having some issues that you're all clearly pointing out as annoying fucks in Twitch chat. So Lucas is going to restart everything. We'll be back in one moment. Don't go anywhere. And if you do, well, fuck you. Be right back. Martin, I swear to fucking God, if you do not fire this shit cunt fucking producer and get us someone... Oh, shit, we're back. Fuck. All right. Sorry, guys. We're back. It's looking good. We might still be lagging. It's not good. He said he doesn't think so. I'm parroting what's in my ear right now. I hope everyone enjoyed that gag. That's basically that's what they pay me for, just to do stupid shit. Lucas, are we fixed? We're not fixed. So this could be the first time that we're unable to click. Could we just do audio only? And what we'll do is we'll get the viewers to animate in with emojis what they think and feel. Okay. All right. So we're going old school. We're kicking it old school. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember Winamp, but Winamp is a thing that we used once upon a time. So we're gonna go audio only until we fix the issues that we have going on here. But that's fine. You can look at these beautiful stills of us on screen. So we were talking about Turkey 5, and the prospects of that roster are about as exciting as Disneyland when you're a 30-year-old man. So look, for everybody playing at home, there's been some issues going on in the Turkish scene. Obviously, Zares went over towards Big. Calix is doing his own fucking jam right now. They've brought on in who have they brought on in? They've kept Engine, right. They've got Emor. They've got a couple of other Turkish players of
Yeah,
I wouldn't
Paz
say
is the best player here, definitely. I think Paz.
that's right. They haven't really they didn't hold on to Yam. Yam's out there trying to do his own thing.
Yeah,
Calix is out there trying to do his own thing as well. That fucking standing in for Windigo was something we didn't really touch on in last week's episode for good reason. But they've come together. They're doing their best, and this is one of those situations where it's going to take, I think, everybody getting on the same page and grinding the way through, because Turkey really has no excuse in terms of being able to practice with all of Europe. That's on the table for them. So it's not a very exciting roster, but at least they've put something together. Sorry about the text message, everyone.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, at least they put something together, because there's more talent than, I mean, the teams that they had playing like the Turkish ESL League or whatever it is, not being really competitive internationally. And this is a team that can at least be a tier 3-4 team and play some of these qualifiers or lower tier online cups and stuff like that. So at least they put something together, and they have some like up and coming players mixed with the more experienced players. But overall, it's not the most exciting lineup, of course.
Yeah, definitely. Like, the problem is, like, we don't even know too much about those two players that they added, basically. Like Anishan and Bayaz, or however you pronounce those nicknames.
And they're both like
only just like appeared on the scene, basically.
They're both not living in Turkey, though. It's like a French and a Dutch Turk, I guess. I think Eneshan is playing some like FPL or ESCA or something like that. And that's where he kind of got his breakthrough. And the other guy played with French players before. I know Nell put out a tweet talking about him having a tryout for LDLC, but he didn't get picked instead of Roden for some reason. So that's that team. And they obviously, just to make it kind of funny, they have 6 players in a team that's called Turkey 5. So, and they didn't even announce like what is their main 5. They have 6 players.
Yeah, maybe they're doing that whole thing, rotating players through and bringing us to the future. That could be the change. That could be what we're all looking for here.
That has been proven that it works, right?
That's true. You know what else is true? HLTV.org, we're all about equality here. Have you guys been keeping up with the drama around the Dreamhack showdown? You guys been reading up on that news?
Just a bit on Twitter. I'm not really fully informed.
So I was reading. Now this was in my stupor this morning as I'm boarding an aeroplane at fucking 5 or 6 a.m. with a bunch of British overweight cunts traveling to island destinations so they can drink beer during their summer holidays. But I was reading about something to do with a bracket change. I didn't actually get to the bottom of it, but apparently there was some form of a bracket change situation.
Yeah, there was something along the lines that they drew the bracket, and then 2 of the favorites, it's a single elimination bracket, of course, and 2 of the favorites are playing in the first round. So they, instead of reseeding the whole thing, they just moved the 2 of them on separate sides of the bracket and left everything else as it was. So people are kind of upset about that, because it wasn't really proper seeding. It wasn't fully seeded. It was something in between. So I don't know. People got upset as if it was some collusion or something along those lines.
So it was actually a really good change that people got upset about, because they were going to get knocked out in the first round because they're seeded up against a good team, right? Is that? I'm not
fully sure. Like,
I'm not updated on the situation, but I would imagine it's just like the favorites just basically alerting the organizers that like the seeding is obviously non-existent. So I guess they just realized that was a mistake.
Yeah.
And just immediately redrew, or not even redrew, like Prof says.
Yeah, but I think it was a lack of communication. Of course, the qualifiers are not run directly by Dreamhack. It's I think it's the esports management side. So those guys have been running it, and there is a lack of communication about the reseed, the shuffle of the seeds happening or whatever. So people are upset about that, because it feels like something's happening behind your back, or I don't know. all in all, there were a lot of different issues with servers and other things in those qualifiers as well. But I don't know. Overall,
there's a bigger one though, right? There was one that was being run where one of the teams, they didn't realize that they could be heard chatting on the mics, and the other team could hear them the entire time while they were talking about like their money situation and
what?
Yeah, I'm not sure where that is exactly. I could.
Was that also in that qualifier for that tournament?
Yeah, let me do some digging around, see if I can.
There are also some people complaining about the radar bug happening, as if you could see people through smokes. So I don't know how we even make that. How is that even possible to be done in a match?
Reverting a change, right? How the fuck would you manage to do that? It would have to be like running like an old version of the game as well as like old servers.
Yeah, but it's impossible to connect to a different version of a server if you have the newest patch. You'd have to revert, and I doubt people were reverting to an old patch of the game. So I have no idea what the fuck was going on there.
Well, maybe we'll find out and maybe we can get talking about it. But we've got to cover everything here at HLTV.org, so we've got to bring that one up. And obviously, the bigger news or the bigger breaking news is around the format change for this Blast event coming up in LA. Now, for those of you who missed it, they're going to be running semifinals, which are best of threes as well, which kind of, in a way, makes the group stage a little bit redundant. Because 4 of the 6 teams are making it through, but it's still a better change because we're going to see more Counter-Strike. There's also a venue change for that one. They've moved it from more like a stadium arena type situation to, I guess it's like a warehouse space, right? That's probably the best way to look at it.
Like storage, some storage type thing. I don't know.
So first of all, I guess, Striker, let's get your initial impressions on this format change.
Look, I agree with you 100% that the group stage is now even less important. Well, I don't want to say less important than it was. Obviously, it is, because before it was all about the top 2 teams. Now it's all about just 2 teams being eliminated. So 4 teams go through fairly after probably like getting maybe a couple wins. So that's. I guess it just highlights the problems that we've already had with round robin, which is that like teams are already qualified at some point, and then there are matches that don't matter, and this is just going to happen even more with this type of a scenario where at some point you just play for seeding, basically, where you're already through or you're already eliminated, and you just play one side actually has some stake in the match while the other doesn't. So this all is just going to be like highlighted like twice as much. Which is something that I don't particularly like about it. But then again, at least we actually get a team has to win a couple of best of threes to win the event. So that's obviously a big improvement.
It would be nice if the producer told us we're back on camera, so we weren't like fucking picking our noses or fisting our assholes or something along those lines. But we're back on screen temporarily. Apparently,
we'll double down on that call with Martin after when we finish.
Yeah. It's look, I think that it's good and bad. Like, I think that's the only way to weigh this up, right? And whether it can't be worse, right? I don't think it can be worse. I think it has to, because it's going to give us better Counter-Strike in theory, right? Because best of threes, we're going to see more of the vetoes, all that kind of stuff go down. So it's still something I'm torn on. What do you think, Prof?
Yeah, I think obviously the group stage now is going to be pretty shit, and some teams are going to get literally eliminated because they're playing against, like, some other team is playing against a team that they don't care about the game, and then they can maybe score a win that they usually wouldn't, and then they would go above a team that is playing against someone else that is fighting for that survival in the group stage. So I think obviously that is going to be an issue, as it always is an issue with round robin, but Striker said this is going to happen more now because more teams go through. So I think that kind of sucks. And then they added 2 best of 3 semifinals. They didn't announce the full schedule, how it's going to work, but they did say that the round robin is going to be 2 matches instead of 3 matches at the same time. So it's going to be a longer first day, and then I presume it's going to be second day, just the playoffs, maybe 2 best of 3s at the same time, maybe not, I don't know. But they're trying to really fit a lot of matches in a very small time frame, which makes, like, even Astralis players were complaining about it not being a good tournament in terms of you can't really prepare for it. So you can kind of go in and it's fairly random. And now it's going to be even worse because you're playing 2 best of 3s in the same day. It's the semifinal final, and you play 5 best of 1s on the first day. So it's going to be very stacked and very long days, not best for the players. That is also a part that they're trying to fit too much into just 2 days. I feel like
Sure.
you can't really, I don't know, you can't make up hot water, whatever.
I don't understand. I don't necessarily understand, especially with the venue change, what kind of an idea they have with this. I don't really understand why they moved it to. Obviously, like blasts up until now have been all about the show, right? The show for the more for the viewers on site rather than online. I feel like because everybody just got like a team that they wanted to see. They got them to got to see every team basically. So nobody just went there and suddenly like realized, okay, I went here to watch this team. Now I can't. And now they basically like how many tickets are they selling? I don't even know how big that is.
I haven't had a look how many tickets are being sold for that one, but I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and this isn't a controversial opinion by any means. This is just kind of the truth of the industry at the moment. If you guys have attended a New York, a Chicago, the Miami event, we saw the turnout there. We just had Dallas go down for Dreamhack. We had Dallas for Pro League last year. ECS did a Dallas event. Now, those events are not brimming with North American fans by any means. The North Americans do not turn out in spades to watch CS. It's just the case. Now, whether it's an oversaturation to the population or the fans of CS within the region, whether it's the cost of moving from state to state or city to city to actually be able to watch these events, it blows my mind how New York is not a fucking sold out event. That should be one of the sickest events of the entire year, right?
I mean, it was towards the start. I think like the first couple of events I feel like were a lot more full than like the latest one. I think. I might be wrong in this, but from just memory, because I was there in 2018. I'm pretty sure last year I was there. I'm trying to remember. I don't even know. Last year I think I was there, and that was the only time that I was actually on site. But then there were 2 more before that.
Yeah,
and
16,
I feel like
17,
the first 2. Yeah. I feel like the first 2, at least from what I saw, like pictures and stuff, were a lot more full than the last one. So I'm not sure if it was just bad timing or something else in terms of New York specifically. But yeah, you're right. Like Dallas was just a small venue in general for Pro League because that was like maybe like 1,000 people at most, like in that Verizon Theater, I think it's called.
Yeah, I think it could fit probably like 3 or 4K at capacity, maybe. I don't know, like ticket sales. Like
Well,
that's not something that I get.
It is
thrown
a
my
small
way.
venue though, like compared to whatever, like a New York or like a
But
big
they would
party
put it in a
or-
bigger venue if there was interest, though.
Sure, exactly. Or
Probably.
we'd know if it was sold out, right? Because the amount. Like, I think my point here is that if I am Blast and Miami, from what it looked like at home, it didn't look very full. It looked like
Yeah,
they're
it wasn't.
picking their camera shots very very wisely, which is a smart thing to do as a TO. It's like that I would do if I was doing the same thing. But when you have an event in LA, nothing is cheap in LA, nothing at all. If they're not selling tickets, if people don't want to go, I think the last thing you want to do if you're a tournament organizer is have a venue that's half empty, or worse, right? You want to be able to make it, because you have to think about this. This is not a decision that is based around what the people watching our podcast right now give a fuck about. This is a business decision based on making it look good to the people they're trying to sell television rights or sponsorships or this, or it's fucking business, right? So the reason they've moved to this place, in my mind, would purely be because of ticket sales and trying to maximize their bang for buck and the way that it would look. So if you can get 300 people in this venue in an intimate environment where they get to be, seeing everything from more of a backstage kind of vibe, I get that. I can sign up for that. I could see all of that being a positive. I think that Counter-Strike events having to be in an arena or a theater every single time is ridiculous. I think that it's not necessarily, shouldn't be the case. I think more intimate venues, depending on the type of tournament that we're dealing with, make a lot of sense. I don't think any of us want to see a Dreamhack Masters Las Vegas situation happen ever again.
No.
Because that really just fucking
Yeah,
destroys everything for all of us.
That was pretty sad. Although, yeah, I mean, I can understand what you're saying because, like, you could also see it from the ticket prices, which went up like fucking some insane amount. That's also a little bit. That's an awkward decision to me. Like, sure, you probably just want to make back like whatever you spent on the venue or whatever. I don't know what the context is specifically, but obviously it has to be some business decision that went into this, considering that the prices went up like 3 times as much or whatever the number was, which is not a big fan of that considering how close we are to the event. And apparently they didn't even upgrade the people that already had a ticket to the old venue. So
They fixed that now, right?
Yeah, I think they fixed that, but it was a bad decision to do it like that. That wasn't really really nice.
That was the one thing that I looked at and I thought, oh, that's fucking rough, because think about people who may have bought those tickets for the original venue and stuff, and they've got a hotel or they've got flights or they've taken time off work or whatever it is, and then they pulled that on them. Like for some, like everybody has a different value of money. I know that sounds fucking ridiculous, but to some people, $100, to go out on a weekend, that'd be $200, right? With the ticket prices, that's not cheap. That's when we're talking about situations where that is a lot of money for some people, and if that comes into play, if that's a thought, you need to be a little bit more cautious with those kind of decisions. It's good they've rectified it now, but I think that a lot of damage has already been done. It's just it gave people another reason to get on this fucking hate train. Which for what it's worth, I think that people need to kind of try and look at things from more of a business position sometimes. I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying, maybe try and look at things from a different position once in a while. But we were like, the format was kind of where we started with this one, right? And this is something that I would like to get back to and maybe dig into a little bit more. Now, I spoke to them in Madrid about a format that could potentially work. Now, they have prac rooms provided for all of the players for the Thursday, right? Every single time the teams are rocking up Wednesday, and then they have their media day with the backstage stuff. They do that extra content. They do all that kind of stuff on the Thursday, prepping everything for the weekend. Then they're rocking the Friday, and in Madrid, we actually had Friday as an arena day, and then we had Saturday as an arena day as well. Now, what I suggested to them was that, I know you said 5 best of ones in a day is a lot of Counter-Strike, but I actually suggested to them to do 5 best of ones on the Thursday from the practice rooms, right? If you sit down and you rock 5 maps of Counter-Strike back to back to back, it's not going to take up that much of the day, right? You could probably bang it out in 6 or 7 hours of broadcast. Now, let me just talk through this format and what I was thinking. And Blast, they're already taking steps to rectify their format by adding semis. So they're one step in that direction. It's probably going to take time before, if they like my suggestion. But the part of the round robin group stage that I said was that if you do it, you make all the teams play each other and they're deciding their seeds, right? You make everybody play for a seed. No one gets knocked out in the best of ones. Everybody goes through. Everyone plays everybody. You have a bit more of a relaxed vibe about it all. And then wherever you get seeded is how you go forward in the tournament. So for the Friday, we'd have 2 quarterfinals. And the teams that would play in the quarterfinals would be team 3 versus 6 and 4 versus 5. That would be your quarterfinal matchups. You'd run that back to back. You wouldn't do them simultaneously. You'd do just a standard day. A viewer's getting 6 to 7 hours worth of content. Come on in, bang it out, go home. Come back the next day. And this is where you're all going to be like, oh, no, what are you talking about, Chad? But then we rock the 2 semi-finals, which is where seeds 1 and 2, yes, but it's a very good reason. It's not just the reason of, multiple games of Counter-Strike at once. It's that the biggest problem we have with running semi-finals and a grand final on the same day, from my position as somebody who looks at the competitive nature of it, is that one team gets an hour break and like the other team gets a 3-hour break while the team is playing the best of 3. So what you do by playing them both at the same time, sure, it's fucking difficult to watch 2 games of Counter-Strike at the same time. I completely appreciate that scenario. But if you run both semifinals at the same time, what you'll actually do is if one goes 3 maps or one goes 2 maps, well, that's up to the teams to fucking win the games in a 2-0 fashion. But both teams will play at the same time, so the prep time for everybody should, in theory, be relatively the same. And then you do your blast standoff. You do that between the two teams who got knocked out in the quarterfinals, so they haven't played in the arena. They play in the arena for the standoff. So now everyone from a tournament perspective is happy because, hey, you know, we've had our time in the arena in front of the fans. We've done on the stream. Da-da-da-da-da. The fucking owners of the teams are happy. Whatever. Then you do your grand final. Both teams get to go eat a bit of fucking dinner while the standoff's happening. Go in, play the grand final. Bang, done. Tournament, legitimate format. Deciding your own seeding. Fucking shitload of best of threes. And we're going to have good teams there because they're blast teams, right? That was what I suggested. And if they get to that eventually, that's a 3-day tournament that I think people would find a hard time complaining about that format. I would fucking captain that format.
I can find one flaw with it, which is just the fact that any sort of group stage with seeding doesn't really, or like where there's essentially nothing real to play for. Like, sure, yeah, you can skip like a playoffs round, but obviously only 2 teams get to do that. So that means the remaining 4 basically just played for seeding. And that, to me, isn't particularly exciting. It's just
sorry,
not...
I forgot one step.
Okay.
This might, and I know probably in the meaning of that tournament at that time, it's nothing. It is a nothing. But because they're doing this global final situation, every team whoever plays in the Blast, for example, let's say NRG, ENCE, these ones that don't have the agreement with Blast, every team wherever you place in the group stage, so every win you get is a cumulative of points for your ranking to go to the global final. That would be one way, so the seeding situation actually helps itself and can lend itself to being a little bit more vital. You could even add prize money in per win if you want, like they did at Summit. So we all know that players don't give a fuck about the prize money. So I thought, to actually
even like long term, like outside of majors, like outside of making it to the next major and stuff, that's something that's been put almost too much focus on. Outside of that, I don't think anybody cares about, like, even think back to like 2015 where we had, what was it, like an invite to the next LAN on the line or something. I think it was Star Series. I don't want to misspeak. I think it was one of these tournaments, like the way back, like 4 years ago, where that event, like a third place decider had
that was
like an invite
ESG Mykonos, and and the second event never happened.
That had it very recently, actually. Yeah, that's true. ESG had it, never happened, obviously, yeah, like you say. But that's the thing, like long term, like an invite to the next LAN or something, that's probably going to happen in like 6 months. Nobody really cares about that, and especially the viewers don't, like in the moment of the match. So for them to have like a motivation to watch these matches that essentially mean nothing of substance in the moment is not great. So I feel like that would take away from the viewership quite a lot.
I mean, you still get the viewership on the next 2 days, so who gives a fuck?
I can understand. Like,
but that's the thing. What I said at the beginning. I just think with 2 days they can't do better than what they did now. But I still don't think it's ideal, and I still think players will be complaining about it. And not the thing about 5 best of ones in 1 day. Usually you just play it back to back, but now they're gonna split it up, so it's only 2 games at the same time. So sometimes you'll have a break, which is good in terms of preparation and good in terms of like having some rest between the matches. But at the same time, that then prolongs the whole day, because then instead of 5 hours, 5 best of threes times like one and a half hour for a match, you'll have like 11 hour day from start to finish. And some teams will maybe play the first and the last match, which kind of sucks. But whatever, we'll see.
Yeah, look, there's obviously lots of pros and cons, and mainly cons, I suppose, about the whole situation, and it's people are very vocal about it. I think that they're not going anywhere. So my view on the situation is, and I want to make this clear to people at home. Like, my job as an analyst or a color commentator or whatever the fuck you want to call me, just because I work their event so that I can put money.
Rant machine.
Yeah, whatever. Just I work for anybody, right? Like, the only company I won't work for is like fucking eFrag. But just because I work their tournaments doesn't mean I'm like complicit to the things that they're doing, right? Like, I'm just a fucking mercenary. I go around, I talk about a video game that I fucking love. So I feel like people like, because I'm looking at some of the comments like, when is Anders going to say things? The fuck, like, just because Anders consulted for them doesn't mean that Anders should be coming out to be defending them or saying anything. It's not Anders' job to do that, right? So it's just, I think that like there's a lot of the community obviously want to latch onto things and they want somebody to blame and stuff. But overall, if we can come up with a solution where everybody wins, we get Counter-Strike that's competitive, it doesn't feel like teams that are not attending tournaments, which we would prefer them to be at. If we can sort all that kind of stuff out, then we're in a good place. So let's hope that things change and evolve and everything gets better. But are we fixed, Lucas? Okay, so Lucas is not fired, and
yes, because the show is live. After the show, we'll see.
I was so happy that the webcams weren't working because I ordered food and it just arrived, and I was like, "Fuck, I can eat! Fuck, I can finally eat!" But yeah, we're back. So thanks, Lucas. All right. Before we started this evening, I came on and I said to everybody, I said, if I die, it's probably going to be of stress. Now, it might not be me who will die of stress. It could be Lucas. He just...
the sounds.
Okay. I don't know if anyone's still with us, but I got to eat a little bit, and my burger's really good. And anyway, we're not going to talk about the topic we were talking about, because we're going to assume that's what was killing the stream. And we're going to move on. We're going to move forward. We're going to take a big step in life. And we're going to be talking about the old guard. Now, what we mean with this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is that ECS, MIBR, Astralis, and NIP, they all really, really, really fucking struggled to the point where they didn't get out of the group stage in an 8-team tournament. The fact that all three of those names did not make it out of the group stage of an 8-team tournament is wild, is fucking insane. And I don't know where we want to start. I think maybe
we can start from the bottom, I think.
Let's go with NIP then.
Yeah, both of them finished last. I mean, NIP, I don't think...
NIP is definitely at the bottom. Definitely at the bottom.
Well, I guess not compared to expectations, because like we just know NIP to be
true
to be volatile as fuck, and just like not knowing what to expect from them any event that they go to. This time it was just Res being really bad, and I think that played a big part. Also Forest that played a really bad event. So those two just like having there's some of their worst events in a long time, if not ever, and just combining there, I feel like that's a big part of it.
I think they both had their worst events literally ever, and by a significant margin.
It's like 0.54 for Res, 0.62 for Forest. That's just insanely low.
Like if you put I love Hunden, but if you put Hunden in this tournament, he'd finish with like a similar rating. That's how poor individually they did.
Probably better.
But I don't think it's. I don't even think it's like the individual part is obviously an issue, but like their T sides were so bad, so they were. I cannot explain how bad that was. It was especially that NRG train now is very CD sided, fair, but even when they got entry kills, their mid round was just non-existent. They were just like waiting around, not even having map control, not even guarding that map control, just like chilling and then going on one side when it was mega obvious what was going on. I wrote down some stats of NIP's T side. Obviously they played NRG and then they played Astralis CT side pretty good as well, but their T side win rate 17.6%, which is disgusting.
1 in 5 rounds, okay, less than that. 1 in 6.
Their 5v4 T side is 37.5%. So usually when you get the entry, you have like 60 to 70% conversion rate. They had 37. 35, 11%. Usually about 20 to 30%. Multi-kill. So any player on the team getting a multi-kill counts towards like multi-kill rounds. They had 0.38 multi-kill rounds on the T side. It's like every third round, one guy had 2 kills. Like everything was catastrophic for NIP.
Yeah. It wasn't great.
Do we look at the HL situation in this? I don't know.
Well, Okay, so
Did
at
you
the
get it
desk.
confirmed?
I didn't get it confirmed. I should have asked him during the show match, but I didn't get it confirmed. So basically, during one of the segments, in the monitor in front of me on the desk is the preview of what's coming up next. So it's what the producer has like loaded in. Actually, it wasn't. We weren't even live yet. I think we were still. I think we were still the broadcast wasn't live, and I could see a camera with them doing the veto, and I was like, "Why the fuck is Get Right doing the veto?" And I was like, "What? Like, what's going on here?" Like, and I saw it, and then he was sitting in the middle, and I thought that doesn't make much sense. And then it kind of just all clicked. And now Nico said that he thinks he's been in-game leading for some time. Now, some time is like what my mum
That's
used
very
to say
vague.
to me, right? When I used to go to mum, I used to go, "Mum, how long until the fucking plumber comes over?" I never swore at my mother, so I would never have said fucking. And I definitely didn't sound like that.
And you
But
didn't ask when the plumber is coming. That's obviously not a question you're asking your mom.
The plumber was my dad anyway. So the point here is.
That's a weird thing to call your dad.
The reply,
Let's move away.
The reply to a vagity like that would be, how long is a piece of string, right? What's that establishing is, what's the context of what we're talking about here? So Nico saying how long could literally mean anything, right? Like a long time or some time or whatever. It could be a week, it could be a month, it could be anything. Now, if Get Right is in game leading, I don't know what NIP are going to do. I think that's it. Like, I think and that's not on the basis of Get Right being the in-game leader. That's just on the fact that now it feels like if they've gotten to that point, it's over. Like,
Yeah.
this team is done. This team is finished. And I always talk about them as a team, who are happy with being in the top 10. That's fine. I think that's fine. But I think that there is ambition and drive from players in the team who want to go further. So I think that we'll probably see some changes happening. In terms of their event performance, extremely poor. They won't be at Pro League finals. They have to actually fight for relegation. They won't. So I guess, the next time we'll see them will be Cologne. I think it's always been a slow decline for the Ninjas, but there've been a couple of times where they've bounced back and given us hope that they'll always be hanging around. Now it kind of feels like we're in a bit of a Virtus Pro type situation, unfortunately.
Yeah, it seems like a desperation move to just put Get Right on the in-game leader role to maybe like unlock some new level. But I think that also shows what you said, that they still have ambition to be better than what they were. Because if they were happy with just being a top 10 team, they wouldn't have changed it, because they were pretty stable there as a team that was making like playoffs of big tournaments, and that's the peak that they could achieve, right? So I think they obviously wanted to do more, but this backfired very, very roughly. And I don't know. I think if Get Right is leading, it had to be like had to be before Dallas, because I don't think they're practicing a lot there with PETA. So it had to be at least like 2 weeks or something like that. But I don't know. Doesn't look good.
So
It
mad.
could just be coming from Lekro, though, to be honest. Like, how many times have we seen like players, taking up the mantle and like obviously having no experience with it beforehand, and then just like giving it up in a couple of months because they realize it's taking away from their game and whatever, they're not actually fit to do it and stuff like that. So it could just as easily be coming from Lekro himself, saying, okay, like I tried it out, I don't think it's really fitting me or whatever, and then just like who takes it then? Like Dennis, we've had that before. You don't want to give it to Forrest. Like, nothing against the guy. I just don't think he's like any sort of leadership type. You just want him to be at the front and just like headshotting people. And Rez, I don't really think that he's fit to lead as well. So literally just gives you one player left, which is Get Right. So yeah, it's definitely not ideal. We've already seen him try it with like the earliest version of NIP, if I'm not mistaken.
I did it like in 2016 or something, I feel
okay.
like.
Maybe I'm trying to remember when this was, but I know there was like a very short period where he tried it, like maybe a tournament or two, and then it just went back to I don't remember what the situation was. That's the thing. But yeah, that's obviously it hasn't really worked out. So yeah, I not glad about this situation in an IP for sure. And changes, I 100% agree. The changes are coming.
I'm gonna go out here and say something about Fnatic as well, because I know they made the final of Sydney. I know they made the final of Star Series.
Here we go again.
But if they're coming around to my house to try and sell me on their team, I'm not buying it. Like I'm closing the door. Like they're not convincing in the way that they approach the game. And I'm probably being a harsh critic here, but Fnatic don't look like they have an idea of how they want to go about CS. Like they have individuals who can do some crazy awesome things, but it doesn't feel like they have a solid game plan. Like, and we spoke about it on the show not long ago, right? Basically, their game plan is fucking shit up and hoping it works out, right? Like I'm paraphrasing here. That's definitely not what was said by any means, but that was the gist of was it an interview? I forget. My memory's fading on me. With Fnatic, where they said about their play style, right? You know, it's to cause chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was some interviews sometime.
So with that in mind, like if that's not really a play style, right? I don't know. Anyways, if Fnatic struggle in this qualifier and they don't get through, obviously, to the major, we might see some roster changes happening and the Swedish scene getting a bit of a much-needed mix-up because there needs to be a breath of fresh air. Obviously, we have Brolin at the moment. I'd say Crims is the best Swedish player in the scene.
Is, like, apart from like a massive change where like literally like somebody just says, okay, let's just put like the best we fucking can, and everybody agrees to it, and like some sort of super team actually comes of it. Outside of that, I just don't see a way out of this for Sweden, honestly. I don't see enough players to mix up or like enough combinations or a good enough combination outside of like some just like literally putting together like the best players and prospects. Like let's say Brolin, Crims, maybe like keep Forrest in there because he's probably been the most consistent outside of this event. But just like out of NIP, he's probably been most consistent. He's obviously, despite his age, he's definitely still got what it takes to compete because we still see him put up pretty big numbers every now and again. And then like I'm just trying to figure out, but then you still go up against the IGL, and unless you get Golden back, I also don't see who else they could take because I'm not well versed on the lower tier of Sweden. I'm not sure if there's any other like up and coming IGL like outside of somebody like Hampus or something, who I don't even know how good of an IGL he is.
Yeah, I don't think he is. He's just like one of those puggy IGLs from what I heard. So not
like the worst part
not.
is I could see just like some Prodax come back again and it's just like some team forming around him again.
Of course, now that he announced his retirement officially.
That's exactly why. But yeah, it's just I just don't see a way out of this for Sweden, honestly. Like I don't know what kind of a lineup they could put together, that or even two lineups if we wanted to keep both Fnatic and NIP kind of like on a competitive level. And
I mean,
with some sort of
even if players agree to it, like which organization would have the money to buy out everyone else? I don't think either of those organizations have or want to spend. Maybe want is the better word. Want to spend like 200, 300, like $500,000 to buy out like 2-3 players, which are surely the buyouts for these players.
Yeah, they're not going to be cheap.
So it's just not going to happen.
Crims having like 3-year contracts or something. Yeah, exactly. Like I could probably see Brolin's contract not being that long anymore since he's been with the team for what, like a year now, almost a year, or close to it somewhere. So I could see his contract now being as valuable as those two, but just still in general, I'm not. Yeah, that's the thing. Like I don't see a way out of this.
Well, other than the Swedish mess, we had a couple other messes to deal with from the ECS situation. MIBR. Look, no longer.
You took a big L on that one.
Yeah,
big L.
You're bringing them up a lot, and I was like, I'm pissed at myself for not saying it, but just in general, like MIBR, whenever there's big excitement about them, like they had so much time to get back on track. Like even with the previous lineup where they still had the Americans, the couple of Americans, and then they had a couple of months. I don't remember which period that was. And then we thought like, okay, this was the time for them to step up, obviously. And then they crash out the next event. I'm trying to remember when this was, but it was at some point last year, like towards the end of last year, before they actually just pulled the plug and said, fuck it, we're not going with this lineup anymore. And I feel like until MIBR actually proves something, I'm not gonna take that bait anymore. Like this is the last straw for me.
I'm doubling down. They're gonna win Pro League, win the Pro League finals. I couldn't believe that North game, man. why did they keep like mix buying and hero?
It was like that's the thing. Like they
AKs?
realized like something like 6 rounds into that T side that just like running around is not gonna is not gonna do it. And by that point, North were just so rolling so much that it was just too late for them to complete it. So yeah, that's one of the parts. But then they also obviously had to lose the complexity, which is a massive loss. Like sure, it was a close series, but like complexity is a team that literally just changed the in-game leaders and got in a new player who, by the way, carried them in that game as well, which is pretty funny. Obo, yeah. I'm on that train. I'm on that train. Like,
why not? Yeah.
Okay, fuck MIBR for the next couple of months until I see something from them. I'm on the Obo train right now.
Look, last week's show, obviously the complexity stuff happened. Had it happened at that point?
Yeah, it was live while we were talking.
That's right. So we didn't talk about it too much, but basically it was one of those situations where I was like, well, it looks like they've just changed their in-game leader. They've just done this. Ricky hasn't played. Da 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 da. Oba comes in, and the whole thing from our perspective, and it has to be from everybody's perspective. I don't give a fuck what camp you're in. You can't put stock in that. So if they came in and they lost to everybody, we'd be like, yeah, well, that's what we expected. But they came in and they performed admirably. So we're obviously going to sit here and say, yeah, good shit, right? So it was kind of a win-win for complexity in this scenario. Even if they like lost every game 16-0, I don't think anybody would have even batted an eyelid. Would be like, yeah, of course, like they're versing good teams. But they put up a really good fight. And I think, I don't want to say it's promising. I want to say like the future for Obo is promising, but if complexity can put some pieces of the puzzle together, Def looked much better individually. I don't know what you guys thought, but from an individual standpoint, like normally he's like middle of the pack kind of thing, and he still was middle of the pack, but I felt like he was having a lot more impact. Maybe in-game leading and him agrees, but we didn't have complexity really on the list here to talk about. Did we have much about MIBR? I don't know. I just feel disappointed.
I don't know. I don't know what happened. Like, I feel like if they won that North game, like, as quickly as they could have, that would have been... Because, like, they were, 12-3 up, and then they won the pistol? They were 14-3 up, weren't they? Yeah, they were. 14-3 up on Inferno.
And you sent me the message, Colzer at 26 too, because I have it.
26 kills, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I had him in fantasy, and I was like, oh, nice. I wasn't there, I was at the dentist. I'm like, oh, nice, getting 3 points. And then I go out of the dentist, I look at the score, and it's like, the match is still live. Like, what the fuck? They're in overtime. It was just that
classic game where, like, you're up so much that you just, like, half-ass strats and stuff like that. That kept happening, like, until it was maybe, like, 14-10. And it might be I realized, okay, yeah, this is not really going our way, is it? Then Code Zero, like the only round that they won on that T side was like Code Zero just like appearing again, or was that in overtime? Maybe it was in overtime. I'm just mixing things up, but still, it was just like such a shit show on that T side for MIBR, largely because they just underestimated the fuck out of North at that 14-3 point. Like
how can that happen though? That cannot happen.
It still happens.
They even said it themselves like 10 times. Like, we're not the team we used to be. We need to take like every step of the way, take every opponent seriously, take the NA online games against Singularity seriously, because if not, they're gonna beat us. We lost games to them. Like, we're mega focused now, and then they like drop a 14-3 lead and lose the complexity. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Like, they're individuals that you expect, you need them to play good. They played okay. Like, Colzera played very well. Fallen played okay. Fur played okay. And then you had Taco and Phelps didn't really do that much. And it's like the classic MIBR, but then they didn't do what they needed to do, and that is win matches. So what the fuck happened?
I'm just wondering what would have happened if they actually closed out that game, because I feel like that must have just tilted them off the planet. Like, instantly at that point, like that must have been pretty bad.
Yeah, but they had
team after that.
Had like a whole day to recoup
That's
from
true.
it.
That's
they
true.
also got like gifted a team. Obviously, you can't know anything about complexity, but going into that, you should just be able to beat them, right? Like you
have everything on them. Like, you have the talent on them, you have the preparation, you have like the smarts, and just like even strats, like the amount of strats that you have, they literally had nothing. So that there was like such a small percentage for going with the way of complexity. I don't understand. I really don't. And it feels like it's just like down to confidence in MIBR at this point. Like, it's nothing else. Has nothing to do with preparation anymore. It's just once they feel like they're not up to it, I feel like they just crumble.
All right. Well, we got the big one here. We got everyone's favorite topic, and I'm sure the fans.
Blastralis.
Yeah. So, Australis, come on in to what many, or mainly probably just me, was thinking was a must-win for them if they wanted to be able to.
I mean, everyone that
I think
is reasonable thought that.
It's about retaining the form that they've had in the past, and that's gone. Right? We've got Miami, we've got Madrid, and now we've got ECS Season 7 Finals where they went out for the first time in the history of this roster, I believe.
Yes.
In the group stage. In the group stage of an 8-team tournament without the world number 2 or 3 in attendance. They were punching monitors, getting frustrated, missing grenades.
That's pretty normal in Device if you're talking about that moment.
Oh, mate.
Device did it even when they were fucking dominant as hell. He just like, whatever, he fucks up something and he just punches the monitor. That's nothing new.
But
Device punching the monitor?
Yeah, Device punches the monitor all the time. Have you not seen that before?
I saw like Dupree and
he's just like not like big time, but it's just like gives it a bit of a nudge all the time.
We've got to.
I've seen him do it so many times. Like even in the last year, I wouldn't take too much from that.
No,
but it's just obviously
you're doing it
something's
wrong. You're doing it wrong, Striker. We got to over-exaggerate this, or it's not as exciting.
Never happened before.
But yeah, Dupree and Device are both like monitor punchers for sure.
But Magus had or has glandular fever, and I don't know if any of you have ever had glandular fever before. You feel like shit. Like you have literally no energy. And to travel with glandular fever, Jesus Christ, that would fucking suck. So that's a really rough position.
Like he was doing all right.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying it would detract too much like from a sitting down type of video game performance scenario, but I think just your general feeling is probably not going to be too great, and you wouldn't want to be getting close to your teammates. That's for sure. But yeah, the biggest standouts for me was the same thing that I saw happen in Madrid. They just looked sloppy. They didn't look like the well-oiled machine that was the best team in the world for the entirety of a year. They just looked all over the place, missing grenades. They were not trading very efficiently. They were very spread out in a lot of scenarios. They were getting caught off guard consistently. It just wasn't the same team anymore. And obviously that's going to come when you're not playing a lot of officials, right? That has to be a factor. You can play scrims, but you're going to get away with a lot more in a scrim than you are in an official. So to get tuned up, ready to play an official, you need to be competing a little bit more often than not. I'm not saying you need to be playing every tournament, but you just need to be playing, more than once a month kind of thing, a little bit more. So I think that Australis right now, if you're going to write them off, you might be doing yourself a bit of a disservice there. You might want to wait and see what happens at Pro League because there's a very high probability that they just bounce back. I'm not saying they're going to win the tournament, but they could definitely bounce back with really strong form. But it's not the same Australis anymore. When we talk about this team, it's not that it doesn't come with the same hype. They've lost the gloss, they've lost the excitement. They're just another team now, unfortunately.
They just lost. Like even look at how they lost. Like for example, the first nuke actually both nukes, was it? Weren't they up a lot on both nukes? The first one for sure, they
had a decent lead, and then
they had
on the second one, Fury had like an 8-round CT side streak after winning the force buy.
And that's the thing. Like these types of scenarios are something that we would say Astralis are like the team that it never happens to them. Like they never let something like that happen to them, where somebody comes back on them. Like outside of that Renegades comeback on Mirage from like 14-6 or something like that at the major, was it? Major qualifier, I think it was.
Yeah.
Like the first stage of the major. Like that was like the first and only case where Astralis ever dropped the lead like that and allowed anything like that, anything close to that to ever happen. And for that to happen to them twice at the same tournament, like to the same team as well, and for them not to be able to learn from that from the first time around, that's the big part for me. That that kind of like hints at this not being the same team that we saw for the majority of last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just proves that we had to see them play before we could say that they're still the elite team that they were before. It's not I mean, we keep saying it's a break, but it wasn't that big of a break. It's just like they played blast tournaments. They didn't play that much there. so we didn't really see them play that much. If those tournaments were big tournaments, then we wouldn't really be talking about a big break. But still, yeah, I think the thing is that they really needed to earn their like number one spot, and the number one spot taken by Liquid was legit. So I think that was proved, but at the same time, they did show some of the same qualities they had, but it's just what Sponge said. They were sloppy. They weren't that drilled. They weren't, I don't know, focused. I don't know, just like match ready. Didn't play enough matches in the month to be on point as they were before. The first Furia game, the first nuke, the best of one, really came down to the clutches. I think overall, Astralis, they were getting caught off guard by some of those things that I didn't think they would be from Furia, but then it came down to the clutches. Like Furia won like 3 or 4 of them. And then, yeah, the second game as well, like Mirage, they won. Nuke, again, the comeback shouldn't happen, but it's still, they only lost to one team, which is Furia. And that is a team that is on the rise and pretty fluctuating. We'll be talking about them, I guess, after this. But that doesn't mean like Astralis are shit now. Like they're not shit. They're going to be in the contention for a top 4, I think, easily at Pro League.
Yeah.
But just like giving them the first spot and saying everything else is a disappointment, I think that is what we'll have to like tone down a bit now after this performance.
Yeah, I agree. There's no way they're just a run-of-the-mill team. They're still, a top 5 team in the world. And there's no doubt in my mind they're going to bounce back. It's just I guess the gloss is gone. But there was something I just read someone's comment about Cologne's going to be so epic with so many good teams. If Liquid qualify, the amount of storylines that we would be having for Cologne would be fucking colossal. Like, I can't. Let's just double check all the teams at Cologne right now.
Well, Navi, Astralis, Liquid, Eds. Is that
Liquid is not there yet? But the
qualifier. But I'm just saying.
The qualifier is pretty bad. The teams for the qualifier came out, and they didn't even like Heroic and Avantgarde still didn't play the match that decides the last spot, except the qualifier. So, and neither of those teams are in the qualifier, so they're like 2 decent teams, and the teams there are Liquid, G2, Hellraiser, Spirit, Windigo, Sprout, No Chance, Movistar Riders. Okay. Like if Liquid doesn't win this, like G2 is the only team that has a chance. Other than that, like if they lose to anyone else here, I don't know.
Okay, so let's assume that Liquid get in, which would make everyone in the world happy. You got Vitality, right? They're definitely a top 5 team in the world right now. Zywoo MVP performance just there at ECS, looking hot. Everything seems to click. They look like they had confidence, obviously playing Fury in the grand final. We're going to get to that one soon. Astralis, found themselves in a little bit of trouble, but now they're on the way back. They're grinding. They're back at work. They're fucking got their miners helmets on, and they're in their mine every day. Ents. Just that stable motherfucking base that can pop off any moment. FaZe Clan, they've added Neo, the one. Who could have thought that this was a match made in heaven? Olaf's back, Rain's back, Guardian's here, and Nico. He just needs one more step, and away he goes. MIBR, the grind, the Europe. They've come back to the place which has made them who they are today, and now they're boot camping, and who knows? It's not going to happen there. NRG, the true potential of Tarek is being felt. It's being energized. It's being brought on in, and Mr. Major winner, I don't know. Fuck, that one's not exciting. Na'Vi, they come along. Boomich is there. He's fragging. Maybe they win some games. Renegades. Gratisfaction, he's back. They've had time to practice. They're looking good. They're back to their major form. Mouse Sports. Everyone's got to be excited about Mouse Sports. Those guys are fucking units. And then Furia, the hype train. Let's hope it continues and they don't shit the bed in their couple of easy tournaments coming up in the next couple of weeks. But all in all, Cologne right now, from a storyline perspective, has some legit fucking names.
That's insane,
assuming Liquid qualify.
Look, like, what if we get Liquid to qualify, or even if we don't, especially if we don't get them there, I have no fucking way how that's gonna go. Like, who's gonna win that tournament? Like, even if Astralis win in Pro League now, or at least get close to winning, like, we're not gonna instantly just expect them to be back. At their level.
It's gonna be one.
So it's gonna be like Vitality, Astralis, and Navi with potentially like just like some sort of resurgence with Boomich, or even Mouse Sports like potentially like having some sort of a say. or Furia, like if they just continue this rise, and then obviously they just made the final here, so they might have what it takes to do like a solid top 4 and have a chance for a title or something.
I think
So
like
like
the
if
last
that happens,
time
like that's going to be crazy.
something like when was the last time something was? I mean, we'll still see after these a couple events what
This
the
is going to be
status
the
is.
best event of the year.
But
up
not even
until
the
that
year.
point.
Like, when was a tournament this wide open? If, just from like this
Well,
moment.
I mean, it's hard to
Like, even
to
if
find a
you go
tournament
back
like
to,
that
like-
when you had Astralis,
yeah, so it
dominating
has to be
everything
before
from-
that. So like you go to Katowice, that's not that wide open. I think you had maybe three,
I don't
4
remember
teams.
what teams were there.
It's like everyone was there. Everyone was there at the time.
Yeah,
Astralis, FaZe, Fnatic, Cloud9.
Liquid.
Yeah.
But at that point, yeah, that's the thing. At that point, none of these teams were like title contenders.
Yeah. Oh, fuck it. The Sponge just had to tweet it out right away.
Yeah,
What
thought
is
about
that?
getting it out there. All right, well, let's keep
Oh,
this
yeah,
moving
okay.
because we're only on the second topic. Lucas hasn't said anything in a while. I guess he's fucking punched a hole in the wall or some shit. We're going to move on to talking
He's
about
digging a grave
Vitality.
for himself, probably.
Vitality and Furia here. Obviously, the grand final of ECS. In case you missed it, you can go watch all of the demos, the VODs, all that kind of stuff. But let's start with Furia. I think, obviously, everyone remembers not that long ago when they were playing and they were looking hot to trot in terms of strategies around the major. I was trying to highlight some of them. I don't know how many people took notice of them, but my interests were perked there. I thought it was good stuff that we were seeing. And then moving into this tournament, you know, we obviously had the Quesarado thing with MIBR go down, so you knew that there was they were looking and they could see talent, right? They wouldn't be looking at a player like that if they didn't see talent. But I think the most surprising thing to me is how deep the talent runs. Now, we can criticize their playstyle being a bit one-dimensional or a bit streaky, which is fine, but they beat Astralis twice on Nuke twice, and they've made it to the grand final of a tournament of this caliber, and this is like their first crack at it, you know, like they've just shown up and they're fucking doing it. I think it's hugely impressive. Now it's going to become the true test with all this. The more events they've got going, they're going to have to settle into playing bigger tournaments, all that kind of stuff. That's going to be the real test for me. Not what they can produce, whether they can produce it under the new circumstances of all this travel. What are you guys thinking?
Look, the main impressive part for me is obviously in Dallas they made it a lot on the back of like big performances, like people taking turns in who's like putting up those big numbers, and a lot of the time it was Art, just his crazy playstyle actually working out, I guess even more than not. And the impressive part about ECS for me was that Art was not there for the majority of the event. Like he had one really good game against North in that overtime on Overpass. But outside of that, I watched pretty much every single game of them, if I'm not mistaken, and I saw him be completely out of a half, like being with like 2 kills and like 9 opening deaths or something like that in one of those Inferno games or whatever it was. And for Furia to actually be able to make this far without him this time, that's the impressive part for me. And none of their players actually were like massive stars across the entire event. Like, sure, they took turns a little bit, but none of them were consistent, like outside of maybe Caserato.
Yeah, Quesarado was the best player with a 1.04 rating, if I remember. I checked it this morning. So that just goes to show how weird it was. But I think Sponge touched on it on the desk about their playstyle kind of being very, very snowbally and stuff like that. So even if they get a kill, they don't get like all of the kills, but people just save and stuff like that. But they're a pretty crazy team. Like they're the team you really want to watch. And why is someone spamming on TeamSpeak? Why is Lucas getting fired the 4th time in the same day? All in all, definitely, what to say? Weird team, and definitely in terms of teams that beat them and teams that they beat, it kind of doesn't make sense, but it does make sense at the same time. because I think Art even said it in an interview that they kind of struggle against teams that do random stuff and that don't have like a very like classic CS approach with very tactical depth. Because there is also that interview where he said about, I don't know what the map was. I think the Inferno pick against North that they did. He said even though it kind of didn't make sense based on the histories of the maps and both teams, he simply said, "Oh, I thought I could abuse their B hold and how they play B, so I picked that." And they did abuse the B hold, and that's how they won the game. So their playstyle is very like anti-strat based or based on like things he notices. And sometimes if you play against a team that's like NRG, which is a team that we define as a very defaulty team that just plays off the strengths of their players, then I think maybe that is a thing they'll be struggling against. And that has a lot of implications going forward against, if we go to the tournament that played next against Mocha Excel, where they'll be playing, they'll be the biggest favorites there, and a lot of like tier 2 teams that play like the default CS and kind of random CS are going to be there. How are they going to deal with that? It's going to be very, very difficult, I feel like.
Yeah, well, they've dealt with all the teams of that caliber. Wow, they're maybe a bit better than that caliber. I won't put them in that bucket. From Mountain Dew League, right? They've been winning every single game in the Mountain Dew League season 30. They only lost like one map or something, right? Or were they undefeated? I forget.
Yeah.
But either way, I think we need to, when I say we, I don't mean the two of us, the two of you and me, and I mean just Counter-Strike in general. Let's not overhype this situation. Let's just take it for what it was. This was 2 back-to-back tournaments where they're able to produce, right? And they did. They produced in the moment. Now, watching their games and looking at what they did to North by literally just rushing long on overpass, or Art pushing in front of a smoke every round that North tried to zone off Banana with a smoke and then try and contact onto A or explode onto A with 4 guys, and they were running into a 4 stack. Those kind of plays, like those, they're obviously contrasting. They're not the same. One's from the T side, one's from the CT side, but they take a lot of faith and a lot of risk. I think what happens as soon as they get rattled, like obviously the final is a different situation, but when they lost that 2v4 on the B bomb site and RPK just strolled out from fucking coffins and gets 3 free kills, and Abel J's just still sitting bottom of apps not doing anything. Like, I understand he was containing because I guess at that point they're assuming they're going to save. But when they lose a round like that, they probably should. It probably is a massive hit, because back when I used to play and the strats that I would call, I would be able to get away because no one had played against me on the top tier, right? Because we're playing in Australia, and then we come on over and I can make as many geeky strats as I want, and then I can come and use them. It's like having a bunch of gimmicky strategies. Now, they are a lot more well-rounded than that. Don't get me wrong here. But you could run the same strategy 3 or 4 times in a game, but with just different tweaks. And you could snowball off of that, especially if they're quick strats, because you catch them on the first gun round. Done. Okay, they're eco. Okay, you get to the next gun round, you run the same thing as but are fake. They lose that. They're like, fuck, they didn't prep it probably. At that point, you're already up in the game fucking 7+ rounds, right? Like, it's if it's something that you don't know how to adjust to straight away, it's very easy for teams to get up to big streaks of rounds. For them to beat Astralis in a best of 3, that completely negates the point that I'm making here. But for them to be able to do it like in more contained environments, I think that they have so much depth in the way that they can approach certain situations. Like, they understand how to play off each other, they understand what to do, but they have just this really fast gear. And with that gear, it's like no one can catch up. I don't know. It's really hard to quantify and explain, because it shouldn't work, the stuff that they're doing, but it is, right? And I don't get it. But I just hope that the community doesn't overhype them, because the next tournament they go into, right? They're in Pro League. So the next tournament that they go into, don't expect them to get out of the groups. Just expect them to play.
They're not a Pro League.
Then, that's right. They turned it down.
They're in MPL.
Right? That's it. They turned that down.
Yeah.
It's fucking, yeah. The next one they're in is Cologne. Sorry.
Cologne,
They'll be at Cologne. Yeah. But don't expect them to get to the playoffs. Like, that should be out of the realms of possibility for them. If they get there again, then we're like, okay, that's sick. But right now, just let it be. Let them continue to grow. They're such a young team. I think there's so many key parts of this that once it slowly fits in line, they get more experience, they get a deeper playbook, they get a better understanding of how to play against Europeans. They're a legit team. But right now, they're not like a playoff team at every tournament they attend. At least that's my opinion.
I mean, overall, this tournament was pretty rough for anyone trying to predict anything. I think, like, you guys as analysts had,
I got nothing right.
you had like 30, like overall, all for you. When it all is like added up, I think you had like 30% good picks of predictions of winners of the matches, because nothing kind of added up. Like everything, they saw, oh, this team beat this team, so they should beat this team. No, then later on, like both teams that got to the final didn't top their groups. It was NRG and North. So how does that make sense? Doesn't make sense. And then both teams just like flat out lose in the semis. So just adding up and quantifying where Furia is very hard. We see their playstyle, and no one really pulled off this playstyle consistently on a long basis, and that's why people didn't expect them to do that well in the ECS. But maybe, okay, Dreamhack ECS very close to each other, then the next event is going to be harder, right? But definitely what you also said is they have a good base of their players are pretty skilled. We saw the like Kaser Auto getting aces on the pistol just like out of nothing. Stuff like that really gives you the extra gear even when it's a tight match. So definitely a sick team. How well and how long they will be like a top, like a playoff number 2 team in a tournament, I'm not really sure. Definitely there's going to come a point where they have to go back to the drawing board and maybe rethink some of the things they do, because as Trekker said, like the art thing, he has some games where he just goes so aggressive and just dies, and just they have to play 4v5 like the whole half, and that's not really that isn't going to give you win on a consistent basis. You're going to lose some of those games. So tweaking and finding maybe a bit better middle ground is going to be, I think, the key for them moving forward. But I hope they don't lose that identity, because it's sick to watch.
I don't think they will.
Yeah,
I think they will still. I think they will keep like the most basic premise of how they play, which is like generally somewhat chaotic. I think they will just figure out a little bit of a better way to utilize Art's aggression, especially on those T side. Because a lot of the time I saw him, like this one round especially sticks out to me on Overpass, where they did something like what you see people do on Dust Too Long ST, that strat where you just like have 3 people flashing over the top while one is just like watching the ground and just trying to get into the pit. Basically, they had the same strat on Overpass B side, where they smoked out the site, and Art just ran through short all the way to the other side of the site, like through like 3 smokes or something, while people like behind Monster were flashing in for him, and he just appeared in the middle of 2 players, all 3 of them, by the way, himself too. And so if they figure out how to time some of these strats better, and just how to have somebody back him up and not have him die completely in vain a lot of the time, and I feel like that's solvable on the T side. I'm not so sure about the CT side. I feel like their Art is going to have to look at his play a lot and figure out, like, okay, is it actually worth it to be this aggressive all the time? But on the T side, I think it's solvable. So hopefully they go that route instead of trying to figure out like a new play style for them, because I think it is something that can work for them. It's just they just need to fine tune it a little bit and figure out how to make use of Art dying, even though it doesn't really look like it.
So what do you think? Are they the best Brazilian team? Like in the rankings, they now overtook MIBR. They have like 130 points, but like in the numbers, they're 5th and MIBR is 11th. But in the points, it's not that big of a difference, because a lot of the teams weren't playing that much, not many big tournaments. So they could theoretically come back pretty sure. Oh,
I'm pretty sure Chad just threw a drop.
We lost Punch. Good episode. But yeah, then to you directly, obviously, are they the better team? Can we say they are the better team? Because there was the whole thing about the Fallen interview. Let's see if I have it written down somewhere, but I'm not sure where.
They're not even close to the level we can play at. Is basically might be paraphrasing a tiny bit, but that's what he said.
But he also said before that
Yep.
he also did say something along the lines of, "Fuck, I lost it. Give me a second. I'll find
what he said.
He said before that, he said something a bit different, a bit more like we're the big dogs. They're noobs. He says, I think there's talking about HLTV rankings. I think there's a big chance they can overcome us because of the blah blah blah. In terms of playing high level CS, I don't think they are even close to the level we can play at yet. But I think they're on the right path. Blah blah. And then the last sentence is, I think they have a long way to go to achieve the level, at least I think, that we're at, because of all that we have achieved, but we are definitely on the right path. Like,
okay.
By the way,
I guess in that sense he kind of means like history-wise and stuff, because they obviously like have a lot going for them with like 2 majors and but like a really good 2017.
Historically,
well,
obviously, like on Twitter, I saw some people like arguing. Obviously, historically, MIBR is the better team. Like there's just like even
absolutely
it's ridiculous
no question,
to even compare that. But by the way, it's a meme. How many times, if you pay attention to like MIBR interviews, how many times they said that they're on the right path? I think even in this interview they say it twice. Like that. But literally every interview since they made this lineup, they say they're on the right path. Like, yeah, now after this loss, we're on the right path. Like, please stop saying that, because I get tempted to put it in the title. Like, this sounds like a title material, right?
We've heard that before, yeah.
And then
I remember I remember this one interview with Fawn that I had, which was like something along the lines of like trust in the process. Maybe it was actually YNK. I don't remember. It was last year. I think it was YNK actually, not Fawn. But I definitely agree with that. Like they definitely need to start showing something instead of like. Yeah, I mean, what are they supposed to say in interviews, right? So it's just
true.
I can kind of understand.
Especially like everyone wants to interview them because they're like big personalities.
Yeah. Sure.
But it's just kind of
literally just figured out that I have the most interviews with Fallen. Like some outrageous 21 interviews with Fallen that I've done in like 4 years.
I don't know.
So, I've heard some stuff like that.
I don't know what a driver power state failure is, but that's what just happened.
Okay.
So we're back. Did we talk about Vitality yet?
Not yet.
No.
We can go over there.
Vitality. Are you guys sold? Because I'm not. Like,
I'm not sold on the entire on the entire team. I'm sold on Zivu being able to keep them where they are at this point, basically.
Because we spoke about them last week, right? I know that the discussion about RPK did come up, and I cited the fact that you'd want to keep him because he buys into the project. Now, I think the biggest revelation for me is Alex. His impact. It felt like it was a lot more than it has been to this point. I don't know what your take is on it, Prof. You get the numbers?
I don't have the numbers, but I did actually think back to when he was in LDLC, because when they had that Chicago run, after that event, I went and watched some of those demos to figure out like what's going on there. And then I remember now that then I saw like Alex being the like semi in-game leader there as well, because Amanek was also sometimes calling, so he's in this perpetual semi-in-game leader role, I see. He was doing some like gimmicky pushes, finding timings and stuff on the T side that I feel like he's now again allowed to do on Vitality now that he's leading the squad on the T side. And that is some of the things that he's doing and finding success at. But at the same time, it's gimmicky, so I'm not really sure how long that will take before someone catches up on it and kind of starts countering those plays. Yeah, against Vitality.
I'm past criticizing Alex, because last time, I think it was last episode, where I said something along the lines of like I don't even know how he's getting the numbers that he's getting, because like whenever I look at him, he fails something and then he gets like a massive triple or something like that, just like a massive play literally within the same round. Like he fails a backstab or something, and then he gets like 3 insane kills off of it. So I'm just like past criticizing him because it keeps working out.
Was that now as well? When
now
he was,
too, yeah. This event as well.
In Dust 2, when he like whiffed 10 bullets at a guy, then killed him. Was it against North?
Yeah, CT spawn is like anti-eco, and he failed somebody in the back, and then he just turned around and killed 2 people in mid by like
one-tapping them.
Was that what you were talking about?
Yeah,
that's one of the. But I saw something like 5 to 10 plays like that throughout the entire event, and even like in Dallas, the same thing, and in Summit. Like I've seen Alex do this like so much But I'm just Pat's criticizing the guy because he clearly like he knows something that I don't. Like he's able to do some stuff that I can't understand. So I'm not gonna criticize him anymore. But what I'm going to say is that what I did say last time is that it's just not sustainable in like the not with him specifically, but just like the star power on this team just lies too much on Zero because everybody else is kind of like taking turns. But Apex is too volatile in his playstyle and in his output as well, because he just like keeps doing pretty stupid peaks and keeps giving up like advantages and stuff like that. And that's like obviously not, you can't look to that guy as like the secondary star. NBK, as we saw this event, he can have like really off games and even off tournaments clearly. And that's another impressive part, by the way, for NBK to have an event like this. Yes, RPK was a little bit more consistent than he was previously, but then obviously Zero made up for it so much that
wasn't RPK the MVP candidate at CS Summit?
Yeah, let's not bring that one up because we're just gonna keep misleading people.
Okay.
I'll let you. Just in general, like this is something that I said last time as well. I just don't see like past Zero. I don't see the star power. The problem is like Zero is so good that he can just make up for like people going completely missing, and so that's why I think that he's just going to be able to keep them where they are. And by where they are, I mean not in like title contention at every event. I don't think that's reasonable. Because like look at the run that Vitality had at this event. They had to beat Complexity twice, then they beat Energy, and then they beat Furia in the final. So those teams are obviously, none of those teams are elite teams. Like they didn't have to prove they're better than like Astralis as Furia did, or they didn't have to beat Liquid on the way. Obviously they did it at Summit, but I'm not entirely sure that they're going to be able to repeat that from event to event, or they were going to be able to take down Astralis. We haven't seen that matchup yet. So we don't know. Against Ants, we saw that, like, once again, that's another thing that we saw in Summit. But that kind of form, I'm not entirely sure that they can replicate. And then at ECS, I think it was a lot of them playing against like lower opposition that got them the win. And obviously Zero being fucking god in the playoffs especially. So yeah, Zero definitely is going to be able to keep this team around like contention. Maybe not consistently, but they're definitely here to stay.
I think the point, well, someone in the chat, Mr. Sly Pimp, is obviously French or a fan of Vitality. He's making a point here that they've beaten the teams put in front of them. Well, they did lose to North in this tournament, who, didn't look fantastic either. But they haven't actually, the point that Striker just made, they haven't actually beaten anybody crazy good in a tournament where, everyone's giving a fuck.
Yeah.
Summit, unfortunately, is not a tournament where everybody is giving a fuck. So you can take what you want from their victories there. That's fine. But I think
no one is saying this victory was not deserved. We're talking about the future, like how this will work.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the difference.
Yeah, I'm not taking anything away from Vitality. They, like you say, like they beat everybody that was put in front of them outside of North, but that was obviously a game that had the potential. Basically, like losing that game gave them the opportunity to avoid Astralis in some sense. Obviously, in the end, it didn't even matter. Astralis didn't even make it through, let alone from first place, which would have put those two against each other in the semifinals. So you also have to kind of like question how much Vitality were putting into that game specifically, just with the knowledge that Astralis could be on the other end if they win that. Because Astralis, actually no, it was the other way around. Astralis already lost the first game, so I guess Vitality would have expected Astralis to be second. So the motivation of placing first in your group with the outlook on the semifinals where you meet Astralis is probably not great. So I'm not entirely sure how much we can look at that North series and how much Vitality were putting into that. Because I probably wouldn't want to have a potential semifinal with Astralis if I could have a choice in that. Obviously, they still risked not placing second, not being able to place there. But yeah, still.
I think the most impressive thing for me, like Zywoo is just a consistent point right now. It's one of those things that we're gonna not talk about. He's just gonna do his job and kill everybody, and you'll be like, yeah, he's sick, Like obviously he's a star, but I think that Apex being consistent over these last few weeks is the most important thing for me. because this team couldn't just function off one guy. And Apex has put up numbers consistently, right? In Dallas, he was good. At Summit, he was good. Here, he was good. He was like in the top 10 here. Alex was number 9 or something. So I think Apex being consistent is one, considering how his playstyle used to be very streaky. I think
Well, it
now
still kind of is.
Yeah,
I guess the system doesn't really allow him to be as much as he used to, but he still has that in his blood. Like you can tell, he still is over aggressive a lot of the time. He doesn't do it as much, especially on the T side, because he's just like fit into a certain role, and I guess the team doesn't really allow him to go crazy like that. But you can still see him do it. It just doesn't happen as much, which is still a good thing.
Yeah, I think that it's still the jury's still out in terms of can they go toe to toe with the likes of Ents. Well, they beat Ents. Can they go toe to toe with the best teams in the world at a tournament with a format that is more cutthroat than Summit? Let me be very careful with the way I speak, because there'll be a bunch of fucking little bitches in chat who will get their...
No, I mean, like, Vitality have obviously gone on a really impressive streak here in these last 3 events. They won both, won 2 out of the 3, and placed in the playoffs of the 3rd one, where they lost to Furia, but sure, big time in the quarterfinals. But still, that was kind of like it's still playing against like a really gimmicky team, and not really knowing them too well. So that's somewhat understandable, I guess, in that sense. We're not criticizing the run that they've had. Obviously, they beat some really good teams on the way, especially at Summit, where they beat both Ents and Liquid in pretty impressive fashion as well. So yeah, we're not taking anything away from that. We're just kind of questioning as to how sustainable this is in terms of the future.
Let's just be like clear and say teams that we think are or could be better and would beat Vitality moving forward. Liquid and Astralis. Like those teams are definitely there. And then rest of these teams are maybe not 50-50s, but like, are you saying Vitality is a given to beat like FaZe?
Navi.
Not Navi. Like what? Who? Like Mouse Sports.
Yeah.
Like
on a good day,
100%...
they're just gonna go toe to toe with these teams, right? Or on a decent day, right? And then on a good day, they're gonna be beating them. But like we expect them to maybe stay like around the top 5 level, but not potentially like having the potential to go first at some point. I don't think that's a realistic expectation.
Liquid. Like it's hard to see them beat Liquid, whereas I could see Navi potentially beat Liquid, which seems like a fucking ludicrous thing to come out of my mouth.
The problem here is the Zywo effect, where like, which is kind of like the simple effect in Navi, except like Vitality actually have, well, maybe not now anymore with the changes in Navi, but obviously with the previous lineup of Navi, if you look at Vitality and compare them to Navi, and let's say Zero and Simple are equal, right? And that's not even such a ridiculous statement to make anymore. Like after what he did these past few events, like that's not a ridiculous statement to make to equal Zywo with Simple. Sure, he probably still has a little bit to go before he reaches like the godlike level that we saw from Simple last year, but it's not that far off, honestly. So if you look at those two,
there is no electronic on Vitality though.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. They don't have an electronic like top 5 level player in the world, like a second one. But then again, it's kind of spread out in the rest, right? Especially with Alex putting up the numbers that he is. So with Alex and Apex being on the level that they are at right now, that kind of makes up for an electronic and Flamey at the same time, like with the output that they've had. So like they're not that far from each other talent wise. So I don't think it's like ridiculous to say.
I can't believe how many people are putting stock in fucking Summer. It's honestly like dealing with a bunch of children that have been dropped down the fucking stairs on their head. I'm closing the chat. There's a bunch of dumb cunts out today. Anyway.
Well, the thing is, like, we're not saying it's hard to see them beat Liquid in the past. We're talking about in the future at big tournaments when people take them more seriously, when people take those tournaments more seriously. That's just our opinion, obviously. If you don't agree, fair enough. But that's why we're here, to give our opinions, right? So that's more or less it. But yeah, I disagree with you on the thing that I think if, as you said, Apex has a bit of a downward period and then people kind of figure out what Alex is doing on the T side and start countering that. And if Alex doesn't have that impact that he has now, Vitality will struggle not only against these teams, the Liquid, Astralis, Ents, but against teams that are below that we mentioned before as well. But that's it, in my opinion.
All right, we're going to start ramping the speed of this shit up because we're already close to 2 hours, even though we started a little bit late and we had some tech issues.
We honestly don't really have that much to talk about anymore, so
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah.
It's probably going to wrap itself up very quickly. We're going to go and talk about the miners now. If you're not keeping track, Windigo are getting their asses fucking beaten into the ground.
Look, one thing that I'm just
Ancient.
gonna highlight right now. The CIS Mana Close qualifier is almost ended. I think one match is left to go, or it's actually underway now with Unique and Not Bad. I think it's
Not bad.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the
Unique and Not Bad as his last match. But War
let's
Dogs,
just
some
read
random team basically that made it through the.
Let's just read the
qualifiers.
names of the players that beat Windstrike. And Windstrike is, of course,
the point is
Bondic.
Windstrike just got eliminated by Warthogs, right? So yeah, go on.
Warthog. It's Mince, like Minis, but without the I. There's Problem. There's Gospodarov, Flash_1, and Jackpot. Just eliminated Windstrike from the minor qualifier, so they're not going to the minor qualifier.
Windstrike,
GG
crucially, having just added Edward, switched Boomage for Edward anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, curious. Definitely curious in that respect. Also, Vega Squadron didn't make it. It's something I tweeted earlier. They lost
but
to...
they fucking
I forgot
suck.
about who they lost to.
Vega lost to Dream Eaters,
Oh, yeah,
another
Dream Eaters.
CIS squad
There you
that they have this same lineup for like a year, and they've been like top 50 consistently, but top 50 consistently, 60, something like that.
But yeah, Vega Squadron is pretty much out of the question at this point.
Astralis' roster has had Astralis' roster? Why did I say Astralis?
What?
Yeah, I don't know.
Hold up a second. Vega Squadron's roster has had some significant decreases in firepower recently. So,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a big reason as to why it's not the Vega that we might remember, unfortunately.
So who do we have
the
qualifying so far? It's Spirit, Nemiga, Force. Force, I'm excited to see them, obviously. Best team in CIS. Simon, not the best, but cool team. Simon, Dream Eaters, Gambit Youngsters made it, Warthogs, and now it's the last game between Unique and Not Bad, which should go to Unique, which is also kind of a decent mixture, CIS mix.
Yeah, the thing is, like, CIS is so deep with players. There'd be so many players that we've never even heard of before as well, just because of, like, it just always feels that they're just pumping names out of there. Like a factory.
This Not Bad team has a guy that's named That Who Came.
Jesus Christ.
SNK is
You know that player Undo? That's what I want to do with this guy's nickname.
Okay.
Just my internal CS nicknames joke.
That was a good one. I like that.
What do we
SNK
got
isn't
here?
that team, by the way. It's Not Bad. It's just like as one of the.
We got all the teams for the Asian minor now as well, right? So we've got Energy coming in from South Africa, Tai Lu and 5 Power were the two names to come through the China qual. Kaze
Vici got
and-
upset over there.
Yeah, so that's a big one. 5 Power has, just for those who are playing at home, they have Bottle, Savage, Shooter Pie, Viva, and Zalsage, I believe.
Show, I don't know.
However we're pronouncing that guy's name. There was upsets, obviously, in Australia/New Zealand as well. We had Greyhound. I think we already touched on this. Greyhound and then Avant actually beat Order, MVP Alpha Red, and the FFA mix with the FPL.
5 Power, by the way, is basically like, for those of you who didn't really watch the I guess lower tier Chinese changes, it's actually a pretty new team that came from Savage's old team, like a kind of like a combo of those two teams, like from 5 Power with Bottle and Viva. Staying from there, and then adding a couple.
5 Power is now a fully Chinese team.
Yeah,
I didn't even see this. They used to be like a
that's a pretty recent
Mongolians.
change. This is like maybe a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I totally disregarded this happening.
Yeah, and 1st of May when they changed it.
And then we've obviously got the European one that's on right now. So no chance of playing North right now. Windigo versus Ancient. It's double elimination bracket for those who aren't too aware of the scenario. But we did say that when we spoke about this last time, we didn't see any upsets happening. Well, Ancient are about to take a map convincingly off Wendigo, right? We didn't expect too many upsets. We thought maybe there'd be one. I didn't think it'd be Wendigo losing to Ancient. I know there's a chance for them still to stay in the tournament, but it's a pretty bad loss to kick things off, isn't it?
I mean, it's just the first map, so but it's their pick though.
Yeah.
Wendigo is pretty decent on Overpass though. That's coming up next, so it's not the end of the road yet. But I think
North losing to No Chance as well. I don't know if we mentioned that. I didn't.
What's the score?
9-6 for No Chance.
It's not
Mirage.
done
Nothing massive. Obviously, it's just saying there's I guess some potential there.
I mean, we all said that like the invited teams are pretty favored to make it through, but
I feel like it's pretty like the disparity is pretty massive, honestly, between the top and bottom half.
Someone is gonna mess up. Like some of these, and for me, Big was the obvious choice, and they had a tough time against Sprout actually. Like the last map came down to the wire, 16-30, and I think they are still like in danger of going out. And Sprout and Ancient are the two teams I think could do something, and maybe No Chance as well. They have some good players.
I got faith in Stika.
Obviously.
He's going to get it done. He will get it done. All right, so that's about it for the minors, right? There's not too much else going on. North America.
Yeah, and NA is going to start, right?
Yeah. Asia and CIS is already determined. Europe basically already just started, as we said. And NA is like two days from now or something, like close qualifier. I think it's the 12th where it starts. Yeah. 12th to 14th. So in a couple of days, the close qualifier in NA is going to start.
Yeah, Furia is flying back for that and then flying back to Europe for the Moke.
That has like a pretty decent bunch of teams as well there. Like that's Furia, Energy, Cloud9 obviously, Attack, the South African team, Envy, Luminosity, Singularity.
Is that pronounced
United.
Attack? ATK?
Yeah,
ATK?
they pronounce it Attack.
Okay.
Well, that's
pretty
easy
sure
to do.
Didn't know that.
I saw it somewhere that that's how they pronounce it.
Yeah, this is actually like fairly competitive for an NA minor qualifier, especially because 6 teams go through. It's not 8 because 2 are for the South Americans, and there are obviously South Americans here as well. So triggering the NA, the lower tier of NA, obviously with that, but good.
I mean, there's even a team like Bad News Bears who I guess has like some upset potential, and Team 1 there, obviously a Brazilian team. So it's still like pretty decent actually, yeah. It could be some upsets there for sure. Like we probably expect Furia, Energy, and even Cloud9 for however bad they've been to go through without too many problems.
The bracket didn't come out, so I'm not.
I'm not sure about that.
It's fairly well seeded.
It's gonna be well seeded because it's Starlighter.
It's well seeded, so it shouldn't be. You need to win 3 best of 3s, I guess, to go through.
I'm trying to figure out how it is with 6 teams. I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, I think
pretty sure that's how it is.
So I mean, if Cloud9 don't make it through, and these like top teams like Furia as well, it's gonna be rough for them. But could happen though. You never know with these NA online shit.
That's where the North Americans do their best work. But that's a nice little segue onto the next topic. Well, the next topic that we have is about Dreamhack Open Summer, and how are we pronouncing this?
Moke? Is it Moke?
I have no idea.
Like a K. I don't think it's a ch in Portuguese.
Not in Portuguese.
But let's start with the one going on for Dreamhack Summer. Obviously, a staple of the calendar. Jönköping, quite a seasoned place, but the teams here. This is.
Are you missing not going to Jönköping for the big event with all of the people there and the BYFC? Is that the best place to be?
Look, it's always good fun. But here's a statement. And this is one that I think people really should acknowledge and understand. I think the most important tournaments in the entire structure of Counter-Strike right now, I don't mean in the history of Counter-Strike, I don't mean like in terms of, obviously the major, that's immune from this whole topic that I'm talking about right now. I think the most important tournaments that we have at the moment are the Dreamhack Opens, because that is the DreamHack Opens have realized that they can't compete with the big boys anymore, and they've geared themselves towards the tier 2, tier 3 market. And that is actually some of the most important places for teams to be for the springboarding of their careers and younger players, etc. So I think that DreamHack is doing a fantastic job with the Opens, and I hope they keep it up because they're offering a very good experience for a lot of these names. Now, the names we have going into summer are Group A, Aristocracy, Taz's team. They just beat fucking VP in the Polish championship or some shit, right?
Yeah,
I'm just gonna
also
say,
lost to
like,
them
just
in
to
the minor
support your,
qualifier.
just to support your what you said, right? Just to name some of the DreamHack Open winners from, like, let's say last year. Hans won Winter, Vitality won before that, and then Plana, two teams that are now in the top 5, by the way, and would not come back to a DreamHack Open probably after that, since they're in the top 5 and get invites to basically everything now thanks to that. Then going further back, that's like North. Obviously, they really went there just to get a win. But Space Soldiers won one as well in Austin last year, and Imperial, who are now a large part of Valiance,
yeah.
crazy, whatever. So yeah, like a lot of these teams that won last year are now in a much bigger, better spot after those accomplishments. So just supporting what you said about the importance of DreamHack Opens.
Yeah, it's one that goes under the radar, and people should probably start giving it a little bit more notoriety. But where are we at with these groups? Where are we at? I said Aristocracy, Avant-Garde, Tricked, and Windstrike is Group A, and Group B is Ancient, Chaos, Optic, and Crazy. I think the teams with the most to lose here is probably Avant-Garde
for sure.
and Optic. They probably have the most to lose, at least in name and notoriety. Anything that teams like Ancient and Chaos are doing, if they make it to the playoffs, then they've done fantastically well. I'd probably say the same for Tricked and Windstrike, because I actually think Taz's team Aristocracy is pretty good. I think that Diha guy is a good player. Rallen, obviously. So maybe we do.
They have
this
a lot
with
of making
this.
up to do though, as well.
That's true.
They haven't looked very good in the past, like, let's say, month or so. They didn't make it to the close qualifier at the minor, so
They
that's
did
a
drop the
big
ball
loss,
there, didn't they?
Yeah.
Well, looking at these two groups,
Before we go into that, do you want to hear a funny factoid?
I would love
Okay.
to.
So this is DreamHack Open Summer. They obviously have a qualifier, and they have a closed qualifier through which one team qualifies, and that team was Valiant's Now Crazy. And after that, they invited, they had a Swedish qualifier for Ancient, and then 6 teams were invited. And the teams that were invited are Windstrike, that finished 2nd in that qualifier, and Tricked, that finished 5th to 8th in that qualifier, and as well as Chaos, that are ranked 35th in the world. So essentially, Valiance played the qualifier and are the highest ranked team. The one that qualifier got qualified and are the highest ranked team at the tournament. Is that funny or not?
By a little bit, isn't it? Like outside of Avant-Garde, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah, all of the other teams are not in the bottom top 30.
Yeah, Avant-Garde 16, Crazy 17, and the rest is top 30 at best.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I enjoy these facts.
Mess.
That is a mess.
Let's pick overall winners here. Who we got?
Wow. Okay. DreamHack Open, right? You're talking about overall winner, not just groups.
Overall winner, picking the whole thing. Fuck the groups. Let's go for all the marbles.
So for me, it's between
Crazy.
Valiant, Avant-Garde, and Optic. I'm not referring to them with this name. I'm sorry. Until they sue me for something, then I'll be forced.
Did the news with Snappy, was that ever official, or did it just kind of happen?
That is not still official. Optic are pushing the record on how many matches on HLTV they can play with a new player before officially announcing him as a player. So Tessis is playing instead of Snappy for
Well, let's
3
think
weeks
about
now.
how much is on the line for Optic right now, because they just got sold to Immortals. And for those of you who are unaware, it's not the Counter-Strike
Reportedly,
team.
right? Isn't it unofficial?
It's done.
Is it? Is it official?
It's not announced, but it's officially unofficial, as official as an unofficial can be.
It's done. So the Counter-Strike team, assumably, will have to be sold. or
Yes, because
liquidated
they have
or...
Immortals, SK, not SK, I mean MIBR is the same
Yeah.
company.
Now, I don't know how that all works. I'm not really business savvy. That's why I'm not very rich, and work myself into the ground. But I think that this is important for them to get a victory here, to be like, hey, look, we can win these type of tournaments where somebody that an org should be looking to pick up if anyone's interested. I think it's important for them to win, or at least make it to a finals kind of appearance. If I was just going to have to throw a dart at it and guess who's going to win the whole thing, I get on board the Avant-Garde hype train still. Fuck it. They haven't really... They won Rio, right? They beat Fury in the final of Rio. So there's no reason that they can't come through and do another one here off the back of old boy James. Who got striker?
I'm just toying with this idea to just go all in on somebody like Windstreak, but I'm not gonna do it. I feel like it's between Crazy and Avant-Garde, and I'm gonna go just to go against you. I'm gonna go with Crazy. I'm not sure.
I think
it's definitely like in game contention there. I just have been burned too much when talking about that team to put them in a favorite position for anything ever until they prove me otherwise. So I'm just gonna go Crazy. Yes, I just said that.
Why is this name real? Why? No, I definitely, if I have to back one team, it's Avant-Garde. Like their playstyle, the boring new CIS style, which is just like waiting around and Jane baiting as fuck, getting 70,000 exit kills.
He is a little
that will destroy Valiance. And I think they have that gives them stability.
You think they're going to go mad from that?
No,
they're not going to be able to deal with it.
Upset.
I didn't want to say that.
So yeah, for me it's Avant-Garde, Optic. I think those two teams. Optic I think is fairly okay now with MSL back in charge. Not back in charge, but in charge of a Danish team. Other than that, I don't think these teams. I don't think our Stars is that good. They struggle so much in the online qualifiers. Chaos, no. Ancient is okay as well. Windstrike obviously shown now that they're kind of shit, and then Tricked. They're just like Kunden teams building talent, but they're not going to win this. So that's it. GG boys. Let's go next.
All right. So
by the way, has anybody noticed? I just noticed now that the Crazy logo kind of looks like a bench.
It looks like a 4 without.
Well, kind of like a 4 as well. It's like look at it as a bench though.
I see what you're talking about.
So what are you trying to say? Are they benched?
No, I'm just making an observation. I'm not trying to imply anything.
It looks like shit. That's how it looks
like. Jesus Christ. All right,
let's move on.
This is going to be the final topic. The viewers can fuck off with their questions. They've all been a bunch of...
Why are you always doing that to the viewers?
So... This bad boy here is going down in Portugal. I believe it happened last year as well, right? This tournament isn't the first time. So the 2000
MIBR won it, right?
Yeah, I think so. But it happened later in the year, didn't it?
No, it was already MIBR. It was their first event as MIBR.
I think it was their last as SK because SK didn't want to pay them the boot camp. That was the thing. So they went over to Portugal, and SK was giving the boot camp area to the NTC guys.
You're right.
That was the thing, right?
You're right. It wasn't. They weren't there.
They played against Hellraisers, and it was pretty packed. Looked like a pretty sick tournament. Like Portuguese fans are obviously fucking insane, so that's good. Everyone said it was pretty good.
It wasn't even the last. It was before Belo Horizonte actually. It was Mocha and then Belo Horizonte, and then they switched over to MIBR.
All right. Well, this time round we have 6 teams, and the 6 teams are for everybody playing.
We only have 5.
Yeah, because it has a local qualified team, right? That has to come through, I believe.
I guess.
I'm not sure if that's... I think I've read that somewhere. I'm not certain.
Yeah, it's some WGR Masters League Portuguese flag, so something. So I guess let's presume it's Giants.
Not Giants. Giants,
probably
Kick,
Giants,
Offsets, then GTZ, Bulls. Jesus Christ.
Let's say Giants, okay?
So we got Big, Furia, Gamer Legion, the team that we won't talk about until they get good again, and Wendigo, and then assumably Giants. So, Jesus Christ!
I kind of like the Gamer Legion aspect of this. just to kind of see them play offline, because we haven't up until now, if I'm not mistaken.
We saw them at the Charleroi, right?
Oh yeah,
where we
that's
saw
right.
them.
They were
Yes,
there.
yes.
They got destroyed or something.
That was a while back though. This is like 3 months.
Fuck
ago,
that.
2
This
months ago,
tournament
something
is
like that.
about Furia showing they can beat underdogs,
Yes.
and that's it. That's it. And maybe Big demonstrating that Dennis, them picking up Dennis to be the main opper was a bad decision, and going back on it and doing something else.
That's the potential you're looking for. You want that to happen.
That is the potential. Like, that is not. Like, I watched. Did you watch any of the Sprout Big things?
No, I didn't.
No, I didn't catch it.
I just
It was
saw
later than
one
I thought.
movement from Dennis that told me like this guy is not an opper. Like the thing he did is a thing you do with a rifle, and that's perfectly fine. And it was like some sort of a 3v3. You're in the semi in the bomb site. You're not in the bomb site. There's some stupid smoke there. He just goes and like peeks around the smoke, and like you don't do that with op. You have to kind of bait your teammates sometimes. And he is still in that rifler mindset, I feel like, and I don't think.
Mate, they're still paying Smooya, so they may as well just fucking.
Like, they can use them for the major, right? But they can't use them for Cologne because he's locked, I think, with the ESL stuff. Or for Pro League, they can't use them, but they can use them.
I don't
for
think they
Cologne.
can use him for Pro League. They could probably use him for Cologne.
Yeah, I'm not
I don't
sure
know.
how that works.
I'm not sure either. But I think you're right there. Those are the really only storylines of this whole situation, because if you look at the other names, Virtus Pro are on a long rebuilding process if they can even get anywhere with it, right? Like, there's been some signs of life out of the newer additions they've added to the team. Like, they've looked okay, but they're obviously, considering the type of counter they're playing. Wendigo, I was a
I
little
mean,
bit
they're
hyped.
okay. They're okay,
Yeah.
but they're not. There's nothing that exciting about them after that WSG. They didn't follow it up with anything. They didn't have that many chances though, but they had a few, and they missed them. So
Dallas, obviously, they had the stand-in situation with Calix, which was a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
But I think that it'd be good if they could have another solid tournament here. So it's like you said, I think if they want to build on that, which was a long time ago now, they need to get to the final here. Furia need to like you said, be able to beat teams that they should clearly be better than. The rest of it's just a bit of a shit show. It's not really drawing too many big names to this one. So all in all, it's underwhelming even for a tier 2 team, a tier 2 tournament in my mind.
I think it can be like for.
I feel like it could be decent, like
they
in
can
terms
bring.
of competition, like between them, because that like what outside of Furia,
Yeah.
what do we know? Like, what's going to happen there? Like,
I
I
think-
guess we expect Furia to win, but like, do we have a clear second favorite for that event? We don't.
I'd probably just say
But it may be
Wendigo,
big,
just on
yeah.
principle.
But
All in all, for like an outside viewer, not that exciting. I guess if this is a tournament that it's Lisbon, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they can bring a big crowd for this, then it makes a sense for them to have a tournament like this. Why not? Good shit. But it's not something that's going to change. It's not going to change the ranking. It's not going to be big in that type. Like for Furia, if they win this, they're not going to be jumping or even like sustaining their top 5 on the basis of this. So it's just like a cool to have CS around the world event, and then if something out of the ordinary happens, we can build on that as a storyline.
All right. Well, does anyone else have anything they want to say? Because I think we're going to wrap this one up. We had a lot of technical issues this evening. We had a lot of problems, a lot of dramas, but
some people have been fired.
We got through it, and that's about it. So everyone good? All right. The producer is not good.
I have
We're
to
having a
say,
say,
Striker won the fantasy.
Oh,
by 3 points.
Fuck! How did I never mention that? How did
You
that
won the
happen?
fantasy. Congratulations, Striker. It was the worst ever played by this.
It was not a win that I deserved. Like, I won the fantasy having Art and a BK, both of whom barely broke 0.85.
You literally won because Yuri didn't even get the +3 for the like. If you play badly, you get the +3 bonus. Like if you play like absolute shit, then you get the -3, and you beat me for 3 points. So
If you got that bonus,
how bad
you
our
won by
players
3
played.
points over me, exactly.
I
And then,
almost
by the
caught
way,
up just in the final.
Sponge, yeah, exactly. Sponge, based on Zero going 82 plus or 81 plus, in that grand final and me and Proud going minus 35 or something. Basically, that helped you almost catch up.
If you didn't pick Forest, if you had someone that didn't even play, if that was even possible, instead of Forest,
You had some like 0 player. Even if you had somebody like NBK, you would have won. Like you just had to have somebody who didn't go 0.5 rating. Basically,
Forest minus 100 points.
Minus 100.
You don't love
points.
to
Jesus.
see it. You definitely don't love to see it. People are asking
You
in
don't
chat
love
when we're doing our next fantasy or the next show. The problem we have right now is the travel time for Pro League. So we might try and work it out for the weekend. But Dreamhack Summer is going to be on at the same time, so it's going to get a little bit messy. Worst case, we'll bring you something. If everything pans on out and I can get decent internet, maybe we can do it Monday before we kick off Tuesday.
Maybe we can schedule around the Dreamhack when this. We'll see what we don't have any schedules yet published, so hard at the moment.
And once again, as always, head over to anchor.fm/HLTV. You can get all the podcasts over there of the audio variety. Listen to them and maybe enjoy our voices and sleep and all those kind of cool things. But we're going to be
not enjoying our faces this week anyway, so
Well, they're enjoying your face.
For like the last half hour maybe.
So we're going to shut this one down. We're going to go back. We're going to clone Lucas so we can have multiple different producers working on the show at the same time. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back next time. Peace.